Hello. Let's pretend that for an entire shoot, you had your camera settings just quite a bit off. Way too dark and way too blue. The white balance and exposure were set absolutely incorrectly. What you could do is easily just make adjustments to each and every image as needed, putting the exposure to where it should be, using the white balance eyedropper or temp slider to get the white balance where it should be. But to do that for each and every image could be a bit tedious, and there might be some images without an apparent neutral target to adjust, so it might be a bit more complicated. If you select all of the images in the film strip, I'm just going to use Command A on a Mac to do so. And click on the Sync button at the bottom right of the Develop module. Here you have synchronized settings. All I changed were white balance and exposure. Those are checked, so nothing else is going to really affect anything at all. And I just go ahead and click Synchronize. You keep an eye on the film strip on the bottom. You should see the images one by one changing from dark and blue to more correctly exposed and without a color cast. Return to the grid view. So those settings have been applied to all of the images at once without having to do them one by one. Another thing you could do is copy settings from one image to the next. If you have very similar adjustments to make in one image to another, perhaps I want to raise the exposure a little bit more here, maybe raise the clarity, perhaps raise the vibrance, maybe lower the saturation. Whichever adjustments I would like to make to an image, I can simply copy. Again, ensure that everything I want is checked, and then I could go ahead to another image and paste those same settings. Okay. They may or may not work as well on the additional image as they did in the initial image, but that generally works well when you have very similar subject matter, lighting situation, and so forth. As an aside, while this can be very, very handy in cases where you have, for example, your exposure slightly off or white balance slightly off in an entire shoot and want to use these sync settings, for the purposes of this course, when you're asked to make develop module adjustments to your images and show the history and so forth for your pics and that type of thing, I would prefer that you do make the adjustments specifically to those images where you're showing rather than just copying and pasting settings or synchronizing settings. Thank you.